Hi Scotland, I am an Spartan. As we prepare for a new independence referendum, almost certainly in September of this year, we would do well to reflect on how the campaign prior to that vote might differ from that leading up to the poll in September 2014. I'm sure we would all hope that the forces of British nationalism might refrain from blighting Scotland's democracy, and insulting Scotland's people, with a repeat of their appalling Project Fear propaganda effort. We could well do without another dose of the British establishment's toxic mix of shameless lies, ludicrous scares, vicious smears, vacuous threats and empty promises. That is probably a forlorn hope. However, the possibility of a positive case for the Union, emerging from the foul fog of British nationalist deception, duplicity and dishonesty is even more remote now than it has been at any time since the Union was first imposed on Scotland over 3 centuries ago. Unlikely as it is that the British political elite might suddenly discover that positive case for the Union, it is difficult to see what fresh falsehoods, frights and other assorted flim-flam they might come up with. They can't suppose they'll get away with using material that has been so decisively discredited and comprehensively debunked, can they? They surely don't hold the people of Scotland in such contempt as to imagine we'll be taken in again by the propaganda that was already beginning to unravel even in the closing weeks and days of the first referendum campaign, do they? They wouldn't be brazen enough to try the old vow trick again, would they? But what else do they have? The British nationalists have no case. They have no credibility. They have already squandered the baubles which were promised as a reward for voting no. They have already destroyed everything which they assured us a yes vote would save. They have nothing, which makes them more dangerous, not less. The British state is like a cornered beast, unpleasant and unprincipled as its behavior was in the first referendum campaign. It'll be worse this time. Rule nothing out. The Scotland office is being readied for a major role in the British state's last-ditch effort to preserve the Union. As the main agency of the British state in Scotland, the Scotland office will be in the vanguard of efforts to crush the wave of democratic dissent risen in Scotland, eradicate our distinctive political culture and obliterate our identity as a nation. If you are tempted to dismiss this as exaggeration and overblown rhetoric, then I urge you to pause and consider what the British state stands to lose with the ending of the Union. We may expect that the Scotland office will lead the anti-independence side of the coming referendum campaign, where the first independence referendum was a proxy war, fought between Better Together/Project Fear and the Yes movement. The referendum 2018 campaign will be much more of a direct confrontation between the Scottish and UK governments, between Holyrood and Westminster, between the SNP administration in Edinburgh backed by the Yes movement and the Tory regime in London backed by the entire apparatus of the British state, including the media and the other British political parties. But the Scotland office is not only being made ready for the referendum campaign, it is also being made ready for direct rule. The UK government has seized devolved powers being repatriated from the EU and awarded itself the capacity to unilaterally rewrite the devolution settlement. Those powers are not coming back to the Scottish Parliament. They will, instead, become part of what has been euphemistically termed a UK-wide framework, along with such other powers as the UK government deems it necessary to strip from the Scottish Parliament. The Scotland office is being prepared to administer this new UK-wide framework. In Scotland, the increased spending by the Scotland office is easily understood in the context of its intended purpose within a one-nation, British state. This is not idle scaremongering about something that might happen if Scotland doesn't vote yes in referendum 2018. This is a timely warning about something that is already happening. 2014 was our opportunity to prevent it. 2018 may be our last chance to stop it. Sometimes we miss out on that simple thing we call the past. In fact, I've realized many don't even give it any attention, neither feel like it's important to know about it. We're also obsessed with what's going on now and what next. What we don't realize is that it holds so much information, so much wisdom and so much experiences that we cannot ever accumulate in our lifetime. Yet, knowing all that, many don't dig enough into it, and I'm not talking here in just terms of one's own past, but rather how it also relates to the past of a whole country, nation, and civilization in general. Go back to the history books and you will realize that human civilization is a déjà vu, happening over and over again. Different times, different places, different people, same story with a small twist. It gets me wondering sometimes, If those people actually read, understood and analyzed what happened in the past, would they change or would they still have done what they previously planned to do? Wouldn't it be much more useful if when we are facing any issue in our life, whether career or personal or political or national, I do know what happened in the past in such cases and decided accordingly, rather than just contemplating in the way I feel and like and what people around me say and all those unknowns. In fact, aside from this simple example, think of where we stand today in the present and you'll realize it is simply the accumulation of events, plans and decisions done in the past, and so to really understand where we are in life it is crucial to actually know what our predecessors did and why. Taking it a step further hypothetically, now that we thought and reflected on the past and got a better understanding of the present, hopefully it is much easier to see the big picture and many of the underlying details of the previously foggy future. At least now we understand better where we stand in this world, how are others related to us and how do we relate to the overall progress of civilization and where might it all probably lead next. I can sit here, contemplate and speak for hours, but I do not want to bore you but rather instigate you to ponder and give me your feedback. We can't go back in time, but we can learn from the unfair, cruel treatment of people by powerful leaders, which is much the same now everywhere in the world. So it is plain to see that power is never given up willingly. We have been encouraged to believe that change will only come from the top, but it is plain to see that nothing could be further from the truth, when in fact it will only come when we waken up enough to change it ourselves. This is why we need to achieve Scottish independence before the UK leaves the EU, as after the Brexit negotiations end, the people of Scotland will not be protected by Article 7 of the European Union Treaty, that bans forbids military force on citizens by governments European member state for political reasons, especially of the right to self-determination, independence, statehood. We are all falling into a political trap deception. After Brexit negotiations there will be nothing stopping Theresa May's authoritarian, totalitarian fascist government from sending the military against the Scottish independence movement. The people of Scotland had concerns, worries about violence on the streets of Scotland if we declared OD. There is going to be violence anyway from Westminster fascist government. This was another part of the reason for the UK to leave the EU, to have the option of military force on the people of Scotland regarding independence. Scottish people will have no protection from Article 7 of European Union Treaty. Total deception, trickery and classic political delay tactics. The Scottish people have been deceived, hoodwinked. The Spanish situation regarding the Guardia Civil, they are all ex-military, been trained to kill. Most Spanish soldiers serve 10 to 15 years in the military, then leave with their fat pension from the army, and most join the Guardia Civil. Average age of the new recruits in the Guardia Civil are between 30 to 35 years of age. As the old saying goes, once a policeman always a policeman. The same can be said of soldiers. Just because they don't wear a military uniform will not protect the Spanish government from violating Article 7. Scotland, it's time to wake up. We are anonymous. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.